Hello, Zoe Clifton from Ballerine Sewing Centre. Just wanted to introduce you to a two-colour quilt block. These quilt blocks are fabulous because this one has a secondary design, so when you start to place it together you end up with other designs that come through. You can see here we've just got the two colours and we have what looks like arrows coming on in. I've used the electric quilt program to design this quilt block, and as you can see here we have another design. So when you start to make multiple blocks and join them all together, we end up with this secondary design with what looks like arrows going in all directions. If you turn that block around again, you can have a second option of quilt where you can then see the arrows are all coming in together here, and then we end up with this other design created. Turning them again, you can end up with this design here. So by making this nice simple block, you can end up with several different designs on how to place it together. I like this block for men because it's nice and simple, it isn't complicated with its pattern run, and there's no curves or difficult piecing about it. We've started with two 4.5-inch squares of light and two 4.5-inch squares of dark. We have two 4.5 by 2.5-inch rectangles of the light and dark, and two 6.5 by 2.5-inch long pieces that come down the sides here. And these little squares we're going to put onto these ones here for some quick and easy piecing, and that will form these little triangles over here. So let's start with these. We're going to lay these four 4.5-inch squares down here, and we're going to place the right side of the 2.5-inch squares, touching the contrast colours. So the dark goes onto the light and the light goes onto the dark. We're going to place them in opposite corners like this, and you can pin them into place if you wish. So we will do that for the light squares and we'll do it for the dark squares. When we've done that, what we are going to do with these is we are going to sew through the diagonal on each of these little squares, so through here to here on each of them, and then when we've done that we will trim and press. So now you can see that I've stitched through the diagonal here, so I'm going to place the 1/4-inch line of the ruler onto my sewing line, and then I'm going to trim off those two corner units, leaving myself 1/4 inch from the sewing line to the outside of the block, and again with this one here. And then what I'm going to do using my iron is I'm going to push those seams out from the right side of the fabric so that it sits nice and flat. You'll repeat that with the other 3 units so that you have 4 of these done. You'll see now that I have placed these fabrics down in the colour order that they're going to be sewn in. So we end up making 4 units. Let's get rid of those little pieces. Helps if you put them around the right way. Here we go. So our first job is to sew the 2.5 by 4.5-inch pieces to each side of these units here. Actually, that one goes that way. So you will sew this one to this one, and this one here, and this one here, to make those into pieces. Because we have a piece here with no seams in, but we have a piece here with a seam, it's better when we press to press these seams heading out underneath the flat piece of fabric. So repeat that for each of those 4 units. When we've done that, we will then sew these side units into place to form the 4 quarters. Again, you've got seams in this piece here, but you have no seams in this piece. So push those seams coming out underneath these long pieces of fabric. You'll then see that what you will have is your 4 units all come together quite nicely. So now what we will do is sew these blocks together to form rows. This one will come under here, and this one will come under here. And that means then that we will be able to sew the units together. So when you have a look at the block here, We have a nice long piece here, so these seams can press up here and these seams will come on over, and then you're joining up the center seam to form this nice block. That's all you need to do, so keep repeating. I've found that 20 centimeters of each fabric has given me around about 2.5 blocks. That just gives you an idea of fabric quantities to make your quilt as big as you wish to make it. Have loads of fun!